Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another special report from Ferguson, brought to you by WEAC Radio Network, sponsored by Credo Action and the Zero Hour. This is Richard RJ Eskow, and this is a special Zero Hour report. Today we're going to be talking with Peter James Callahan, executive producer of the Zero Hour, and Seth Jackson, senior producer at WEAC Radio Network and associate producer here at the Zero Hour. Guys, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, RJ, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. The big question is, how are you guys doing? Because now today it's Monday. You guys were at the demonstrations last night. We've heard a lot. We've been a lot of confusion about what went on there. Pete, you guys got tear gassed. Seth, you got shot with a beanbag and probably tear gassed also. So tell us a little bit, because what we hear on the mainstream media is that this is somehow a situation where protesters start. First of all, let's start at the beginning. The mainstream media and the National Guard and or state police rather, and other folks have said that protesters threw Molotov cocktails or in some way endangered the lives of the police. But what I'm hearing from frontline folks who were there is that is not so. Is that true? True? Not true?
In my opinion, no. I can't say I did not see what everyone did, but there were a lot of cameras there. There was a lot of people there. I did not see any evidence of any Molotov cocktails being thrown. I saw none being thrown. I saw no evidence of them having landed as broken bottles. I didn't see any fires or anything like that, what you would expect to see if someone had thrown an incendiary device. I saw none of the such, but I've heard it reported so many times. At this point, I'm ready to believe it.
And also, Seth was behind the police line, and we'll get to more of that later. But I was in, right at the front line of the protesters, and the only thing I saw that was any kind of confrontational action was 12-year-old boys throwing rocks, aka kind of like Palestine, and a couple glass bottles. There was not any kind of provocation, really. I saw one fire, a small fire. It was a McDonald's bag on the ground like that, got lit, and immediately a member of the community went and put it out a bottle of water. So, there's no cocktails. I said on Twitter today, show me the video. I think police got really scared when the march got a little bit close to their huge encampment, which Seth actually took some great stills of yesterday, which was just more police cars than I've ever seen in my entire life in one place. I'm from Philadelphia. I've been to Occupy Wall Street. I've seen lots of massive police occupations. And it's literally this huge shopping center that is full of police cars and police vehicles and command centers and SWAT team vehicles. And they literally got a little too close in this march, and the police just came at them and didn't really hold any quarter.
So it's kind of so they were in this big, huge shopping center, and you think they panicked when the crowd came, maybe, but that there was none of this going on.
I don't know that the crowd ever actually reached the shopping center. When we were trying to gain access to Florissant, which is the main avenue, we stopped by the command center and we spoke with the police, and then we just kind of drove around, and we were able to see they were prepping for this. Some of
they were itches for a fight.
Yeah, these guys, they were getting in their trucks, and then we went probably between the time we photographed them
about an hour and a half.
Yeah, if not less.
Yeah.
That was the time between we photographed them. We sat. We sent out a few tweets, and then a gentleman came back walking from there and told us they've started shooting tear gas. By the time we got down there, the police had amassed their first wave of riot police at Ferguson and Florissant, which is at the very top of the street, which is still a block down from where their actual command center is. And when I say a block, like a New York City block, maybe almost a quarter mile.
And I was actually on the phone with a friend of mine from D.C. at the time, and I saw the march go by, and I'm like, oh, they're marching like they have every night, up the block, back down. And I was like, no big deal. And then I heard pop, 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 pop. And I'm like, that sounds like gunshots or cannons firing, 40 mics and tear gas. And I said to her on the phone, I was like, this might be going down right now. I'm not sure what that is, like that kind of thing. And then that youngin came by and was like, hey, they're firing tear gas at the crowd right now. And then we basically scuttled the idea of doing a live stream, which we were trying to do at the time, and then just grabbed our cameras and ran towards the scene.
Now tell me what happened, Seth. You were taking pictures. At one point, you were behind the police line, right? And then you went back to where the demonstrators were.
Yeah, I was. Let's say when we came down, we came down Ferguson. The police were massed on Ferguson, walking down Florissant. So we came down and we got in front of the police. First on the side of the street, same side as the McDonald's. They sat there and they fired their tear gas. So then when I crossed the street onto the other side of the Florissant, and they walked right past me. But as they were massed on Ferguson, I was standing next to a truck, and that's when they targeted me. There's nothing behind me. I was the only one there. I was on one side of the truck. There was another news crew on the other side of the truck. So I'm just taking pictures. I put my camera down to record for a second as I grabbed another lens. As soon as I leaned to grab my camera and put the lens on, they shot me with a beanbag. And then I stood up and kind of leaned back. From there, they shot a smoke canister at me. So now it's the smoke going off, and I'm just kind of reeling from being hit. Just realized I didn't even know what I was hit with at the time. But
so what are you showing me now?
So what we're seeing right now is a serious projectile. Like, this is a beanbag. So out of a 12-gauge shotgun shell, which I've shot clays with many a time upstate New York. But so it basically comes out the shotgun shell like so, and then they hit him, knocked him down, and followed it up with a smoke grenade.
And that's the smoke grenade.
Yeah.
Right. What does it say on that smoke grenade?
It says multi-smoke, CS irritant. I think it has light CS. Like, they're firing, instead of tear gas last night, they're firing that CS gas, which is a little bit nastier. Like, I was blinded 4 times wearing goggles even, and literally a couple times people were watching me, like, holding my hand out, being like, I can't see, I'm holding 2 cameras, I can't see. And literally a guy came up in front of me and was like, hey man, I got you. I'll get you out of this crowd. Hold my shoulder, I'll walk you back to the end of the line. And he walked me back, and I got better, and I kept filming. And it was just, like, they were targeting journalists. Like, this guy was obviously a journalist. He's wearing a hard pass. He had 4 cameras on him. Like, he had a bunch of lenses. He's switching his lenses. They waited till he switched his lens to then shoot him. Like, his head was down, right? They shot him with a beanbag, which has, like, a target distance of about, 2 feet. And so they aimed at his head, hit his clavicle instead, thank God. And, like, yeah, they were targeting journalists all last night because they're doing dirty stuff. Like,
so let me
don't cover it.
Let me play devil's advocate for a second. There's no chance that they might have thought, Seth, that you were like going for a weapon or weren't a journalist, or I mean,
I actually just crossed the street. I would say less than 200 feet in front of them, from the other side of the street. They're firing smoke grenades and whatever else they're firing over my head.
Yeah.
So I'm walking, there's a good distance between them and the protesters, and so I'm in between them and the protesters at this point, crossing the street from almost parallel to the McDonald's.
And you're carrying a camera bag.
I'm carrying a camera bag on you. I'm shooting as I'm crossing the street. I paused by that vehicle because it just seemed like a good place to post up, and that's where I stopped. And then I kept shooting from there. And then when I decided to change lenses, I guess I was steady in one place for a second.
Okay, so you were targeted.
And also, like, the white news crew next to Seth wasn't targeted yet.
Well, I was going to ask you, that was exactly my next question, was there anybody else near you? Because I'm looking at the visual of you 2 guys right now on camera, one next to the other, and I'm thinking, if I had to guess which one of these 2 guys the Ferguson police shot with a beanbag, I would have gotten it right on the first try. And I just want to be fair to those guys.
It wasn't Ferguson police. It was state police and state
Okay.
county police who have no idea what's going on. Like, they can't give directions. They can't all communicate with each other. They're all assigned numbers. There's a lot of, like, we talked a lot of cops yesterday trying to just get into the scene with our truck, and we couldn't. And all of them can't give us directions even because they're not from here.
Right, but okay, so it was state police. So again, I mean, I wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt and say, like, just like I asked, could they have thought that, Seth, that you were threatening? And then my next question is, were there other people around? Maybe, you know, do you think you might have been targeted because of your skin color, for example?
Behind the main police line.
I'm pretty sure I was targeted. I don't want to say because of my skin color. I can't say that there was something that I don't know whether it was skin color, but I was targeted. Maybe for being a journalist, maybe for being too close. I'm not sure. Where I was standing, there was a small vehicle, a small SUV. I'm standing right next to it, to the left of it. Maybe over two more car-length spaces, there is a SAT truck parked with a two-man local news from their Channel 4 here parked, and they're standing there. So, I mean, we're very much less than 40 feet apart from them. And this is their first wave. They hadn't even started marching down on the protesters yet. They were just there firing at them. So
you think maybe they just didn't?
What the reason was, I don't know.
All right, because maybe they didn't even want the images you were capturing of them shooting the tear gas or whatever. I know they've been very sensitive, very defensive about getting a picture taken, even though that's your right as a journalist to take their picture, and it's the American people's right to take their picture. But I know that's been an issue with the Ferguson police, and I know that's been an issue now. So, all right, so you guys are there. You're in our mobile headquarters there in your hotel room, and now, as of now, we hear that Governor Nixon has lifted the curfew, and that the National Guard is coming in, right? So they're taking over from both the state police and the Ferguson police. And what's the mood there? What are people anticipating tonight?
It's hard to tell. Like, there's a lot of people that still want to claim their own streets, and they feel like they deserve justice. And so part of the problem right now is that no one really knows who's in control. And last night proved that very, very well. There was multiple factions of SWAT teams and everything running around. Like, I saw a woman get hit in the stomach with one of these, which is a CS gas canister.
Okay, let me see that for a second now. That's a CS canister. That now it would be. I want to be fair to the police, but it seems to me it would be hard to accidentally hit somebody with that.
Right, and it's also like, if you've seen Apocalypse Now, there's that scene where the guy has the 40 mic or a 40 millimeter grenade launcher, and he's super accurate with it. Like, these guys train for this. Like, they're good at it. Like, I had a flashbang grenade fired out of a, launcher, hit, 2 feet away from my leg, and I turned away, broke for cover. I was wearing a helmet that's clearly marked press on both sides. It's bright red. I'm obviously there in a mask and a helmet with multiple cameras strapped to me. Like, they're targeting journalists because they don't want to show the dirty deeds they're doing, is my feeling as a journalist on the ground. So, yeah, I worry that the National Guard, which is mostly MPs, could either make this all calm down, or it could, escalate even more. And it's another occupying force in a black neighborhood that's mostly white. Like, the pictures I've seen of them come off the plane, mostly white guys. Like, MPs that are National Guard are mostly cops that want to do their weekend, a month, 2 weeks a year, and make some extra money. And that's nothing wrong with that.
See, in the civil rights days, going way, way back, in the civil rights days, it was the National Guard that integrated the schools in Alabama and so on. I mean, the National Guard was a force for the good guys here, but I guess what you're saying is that's an unknown here. Have you been able to had a chance to talk to any community folks local here who in Ferguson how they might react, how they think that might go down?
We have a little bit, but it's touch and go. It's very, very touch and go right now.
Okay.
I think will calm this down the most is to arrest the Darren Wilson.
Uh-huh.
If they take him into custody, if they charge him
with anything,
something,
anything, even a civil rights violation, a federal civil rights violation, a excessive force violation, anything like that would quell the situation. Like, just take him into custody. He's at a secret location outside of town right now, and they want justice. And they're not going to leave until they get justice.
That is the main sentiment out here: is we ain't going nowhere till we get justice. The first night of the curfew, they were like, we ain't going nowhere till we get justice. Okay.
And have they even suspended that officer? I know he left town, but Darren Wilson, has he even been suspended from the force officially?
Officially, I haven't heard that at all.
No, my understanding is he's on paid leave at this point.
All right. Well, so, okay, I guess the only other thing I wanted to ask you is, Pete, when I was talking to you a little while ago, you said that there was so much love out there, that when you couldn't see, you were blinded, that you were getting a lot of love from the crowd. I don't know, Seth, if you've had that same experience, but that really dovetails with, when I talked to Reverend Eskow and Mike yesterday from the local youth group and drug group that he works with, that what gets emphasized here is, on the mainstream media again as well, the idea that there were Molotov cocktails thrown, which, by the way, Reverend Eskow wrote that extreme dispute of that, because he says he was one of the witnesses between the demonstrators and the police. He said absolutely nothing of that kind happened. He totally agrees with you guys.
Like, I saw 12-year-old boys throwing rocks and full bottles, and that was very rare, and I have it on video. And when looting happened, when some incident happened, demonstrators stepped in to alleviate the situation and make it better. So number one, we get this story from the mainstream media, and this is why I think it's important. Number one, we get the story from the mainstream media that is not true or highly exaggerated. Demonstrators are not committing violence. Maybe some random kids are. The demonstrators and the community are working very hard to stop that and to do right by the storekeepers there. But the other thing that I think is very important, and you mentioned it, and it came out in what Reverend Eskow and some other people were saying, is that there's a lot of love there, there's a lot of solidarity there, there's a lot of mutual support. Is that true? Is that correct?
Yes, definitely. Let me tell you just a couple of things that happened that show that, okay, the first night of the curfew, we were wondering what we're going to do for the curfew. Are we going to be able to obey it, or as media, will we be able to stay out and film? So we're kind of making a plan. One of the locals, a gentleman, came to us and said, you know what? I live right behind the QT, which is ground zero. He offered us to come to his home. He said, you all can come to my home and sit in my...
Oh, it froze for a second there.
Anyway, but he was nice enough to offer this to us. He said, if anything happens, just come to my house. Here's my phone number. Give me a call, and you all come on. You bring whoever you need, whoever's with you, just come on. You can sit in my living room all night long if you need to. He even offered up, what he say? I got some homemade wine. I don't have much to eat, but I got some homemade wine for you. Right. And then even last night, as they had marched down on the protesters and it was starting to get really hairy, and Pete was worried for his own safety, he gave me a call. Now, I'm behind the lines, and they're really marching down at this point. He's asking me to come pick him up maybe a quarter mile back at on Chambers.
Like past Chambers, yeah.
Past Chambers.
Way past, like, they basically ran, last night, like, just sorry to repeat, but last night they basically ran the protesters down West Ferguson into another group of cops who were already ready to go. And when I ran that way, like, going for cover, I came over a hill, and, like, suddenly there's cops with AR-15s pointing at me. And I was out of film at that point, but I was really extremely scared of my safety. I called him like 4 times, and I was just like, dude, like, I need you to get me out of here right now, because I'm not really sure what these guys are going to do. And yeah, like, I've covered a lot of stuff like this, and I've never been as afraid for my life as I was last night.
So I had to come back from behind the lines, go back to our car, and because they have all the roads blocked off, I have to take side streets and drive through neighborhoods. I'm not familiar with this area. I've never been to, other than now. I got lost in the side streets. I saw a young lady going into her home. I asked her, "Hey, how do I get to Chambers?" She asked me, "Was I with the protest?" I said, "Yes." I was filming it. She said, she attempted to give me directions, but it was very intricate in the directions. She's like, "I left here, and then take a right, take a left." And then she said, I said, "Okay," and I repeated it back to her, and she said, "You know what? Don't even worry about it. Just follow me." She jumped in her truck, and she drove me, I don't know, maybe a mile through these neighborhoods, and then pulled up at Chambers and said, "You need to go left here, and your friend, he's going to be right down there." I told her the place, Lee's Chicken. She said, "It's right down here on the left. Just keep going down to the left." It's like,
and the one thing I want to add to all this, too, is that last night, like, I was at the front lines from the time they advanced from Ferguson all the way back to they ran back to Chambers. Like, a lot of people I'd interviewed before earlier in the week went to take shelter at church, which then the police approached on and, ran the church, basically, which I was boggling my mind. People were trying to take shelter in a freaking church, and they went at them there. And that's when I was really scared. It's like, oh, you're going to go to a sanctuary. Great. But the main thing there was that I didn't see any looting until I was right about up to Chambers. And it was all, like, kids under 14, like, breaking windows to get water and milk to pour over their eyes. They're covered in CS gas. Like, that wasn't really looting. I wouldn't really call that looting. I think they were provoked and angry, yes, but I honestly don't, like, no one wants to tear up their own community, and these kids aren't doing that. And they're out there, and, like, I saw kids kneeling down in the street with their hands up, being like, "Come on, stop." And yes, they did build barricades. They're trying to stop the police from advancing on them and advancing on babies. Like, I had film of mothers carrying infants running through clouds of CS gas because the police advanced with no warning on this crowd of people who were completely peaceful. I have no words for that, honest to God.
So the message I'm getting from you guys is the situation, the police were much rougher last night than the mainstream media reported, and there was a lot more peacefulness, love, and mutual support among the crowd than the media.
Let's stop for a second. Like, let's say a couple young boys who are angry and have, very few, economic opportunities for them, let's say, threw a couple rocks at guys in armored personnel carriers. Like, these are Fallujah-styled armored personnel carriers. Like, these can withstand a roadside bomb. They're throwing a rock or a bottle. And you advance on a crowd that has infants and babies in it, in armored personnel carriers, indiscriminately shoot beanbags, rubber bullets, and CS gas at this crowd, who then, the streets are basically jammed with traffic. They can't leave in their vehicles. They can't run fast enough to get away from the police. And you have community members building barricades trying to stop them from hurting more members of their community, is what I basically saw out there last night.
So what do you guys, what's your plan for tonight?
So in a couple hours, I think we're going to set up a live stream and talk to more members of the community, because I think the mainstream media likes to talk to leaders like Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton and Antonio French, who I respect the hell out of, but they're not talking to people on the ground, really. And we're of the people, by the people, for people, is what we do here. And, like, I'm going to stay with them till, they stop shooting at them.
And you, Seth?
Yeah, that's my plan, is just to get out there and engage the people and let them tell their own story. Most of the people that have told their story, they've come to us, and the first thing they say to us is, "Thank you. We appreciate you all coming out here, making the world take notice of this." Random
middle-aged women just walking up to me and giving me a hug, being like, "Thank you for putting this camera up here and making sure the world can see our story." Like, there's so much love in this crowd, and you don't see that on CNN. CNN's, CNN's sitting, we got home last night, covered in CS gas. Like, I was literally still crying because my eyes were just bloodshot red from getting gas so many times last night in the front line. And, all the guys from CNN at the hotel bar drinking and laughing. And I'm like, oh, good for you. And also, the place they tried to put us as media last night was in the cop, encampment, right? But, in a little media area where all the big SAP trucks were. and except for a couple of local news guys where Seth was right by McDonald's. And so they're all covering it, doing stand-ups from,
Very far.
way far, like way back.
I hate to be a conspiracy theorist, but I do think there are some people who are not playing fair here. There was one person who was with the journalists, but he didn't appear really to be a journalist, and I could hear him on the phone, but he got close to everyone else enough, and so that we could hear what he was saying. He was speaking very loud. He's like, "Yeah, they just shot a cop. They just shot a cop." So I approached him. I asked him, "Well, they shot a cop?" I hadn't heard that, and that hadn't been reported. But he's saying this to the other journalists that an officer was just shot.
We heard that all over. The media was reporting that all over last night, that a cop got shot. It turns out it wasn't true, right?
It wasn't true, and the Molotov cocktail thing too. Like, I keep going back to that. Like, I heard that. Like, I watched CNN all night last night when we got back while we were cutting video and doing stuff like that. And I heard Molotov cocktail, Molotov cocktail, Molotov cocktail. Like, I didn't see any burning APCs. I didn't see anything burning at all, really. I saw one fire that one 14-year-old boy, or roughly 14-year-old boy, lit. It was like a bag of McDonald's on the side of the road. And within 30 seconds, you never walked over and said, "Youngin, don't do that," and poured it out with water. Like, they're not. They don't want to attack police. They're not here to do that. Like, I heard 12-year-old boys who would never, ever, like, in any world I would think of be politically active, talking about it's my constitutional right to peaceably assemble. And that's what these people are doing. Like, they're in their community, and they're not here to start violence. It's when they're some things will happen, yes. But like, if you get tear gas 6 times in a night, like, I was ready to punch someone last night. When Seth I was mad as hell. But like,
Seth looks a lot mellower than you are right now. I got to say, But
it's been like, he was behind the line. I was getting gassed a lot. It's been a long couple days.
No, I know. And look,
so like,
be careful. Be careful out there tonight. Take care of yourselves. But the reason you're there, the reason you're there is because these other stories of the Molotov cocktails and so on go out over the other networks, and if they get corrected at all, it's at some odd hour. Everybody walks away thinking, well, they were throwing Molotov cocktails or whatever. They get the wrong impression. So you guys are on the front line to give everybody the right impression. We thank you for that. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe.
It's just that, like, also, we haven't been sitting in press conferences the whole time I've been here. The CNN guys and MSNBC and all of them, Chris Hayes has done all right. Chris Hayes got maced the other night, supposedly, or something like that. But other than that, like, they're sitting in press conferences listening to all the bullcrap all day long. And we're out there among the people seeing what's going on in the street, and that makes a big difference.
And you're going to keep doing it, but we want you to stay safe, and we're going to keep these reports coming. And meanwhile, people can see the live stream if they Google Ferguson Live Credo Action, right? So we're going to keep it happening. These reports are produced by the We Act Radio Network and sponsored by Credo Action. And thanks so much for joining us. I'm Richard RJ Eskow. We've been hearing a special report from Seth Jackson and Peter James Callahan on the ground there in Ferguson Live. I'm Richard RJ Eskow, and this is The Zero Hour.